Hi FlossTube, I'm Nan Pope, and this is The Difference Maker. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to cross stitch and all kinds of stitching things, although occasionally I'll be talking a little bit about some of my quilting or maybe photography. Why would I want to start a FlossTube? Well, predominantly because I don't know any stitchers. I taught my sister how to quilt, and she lives nearby, but she's not a cross stitcher. And I stumbled across FlossTube by way of Kimberly at Fat Quarter Shop. I've been a Fat Quarter Shop customer for so many years, probably 15 years, 14, 15 years. And now with the quarantine, I was spending some time catching up on some of her videos, and I noticed that she had FlossTube, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but checked it out, and I was like, gosh, I need to dust off some of my cross stitch because I've been a cross stitcher since I was probably early college. I guess even before that, as a kid, I would do embroidery and make doll clothes for my Barbies and various other things, but actually learned how to, appropriately cross stitch when I was in college. And then when my husband and I graduated, we graduated and then got married right after college, but I had made him, and this is probably very dusty, but I had made him this is a Gloria and Pat or Precious Moments graduation announcement thing for him. So obviously if you do the math, you can figure out how old we are. But I had also made one for myself to match that. So these have hung in our home for a long time. They've been stuck in a closet recently. Oh, and if you're hearing the dogs bark, we have 3 Australian Shepherds, so they're upstairs with my husband. But also, my husband always loved the Bible verse around fishers of men, and so I had done this for him during our engagement. And I know, based upon everything that I've been hearing, a lot of people do not like back stitching. Well, take a look. All of the Precious Moments get their detail work through back stitching. So there's a tremendous amount of back stitching in all of those types of projects. And honestly, that's some of the only material that I have of any of the projects from my early stitching days, because I continued to stitch until, but I gave it all away. I was doing, again, Precious Moments alphabet names for all my nieces that had gotten, that were born throughout our early marriage. Everything from Rebecca, Bethany, Ashley, and finally we had an Amy, only 3 letters. But I never have done any of those things for my kids, and I have 2 boys. So I had actually begun, and I tried to find it before I started this FlossTube, but couldn't, and I'll have to dig it out. But I did start Jonathan, who's my oldest son. I'd started his name, and then a few years ago, I was like, well, gosh, I know. He's now 32 years old, so not that he is going to actually hang this in his room or living room, but I thought, I've got to finish it. This was like my oldest whip, and so I did finish it. I have not fully finished it. I did not frame it yet. But I do intend to do that because I think that it will mean something to him. He'll probably hang it in his home office or something. Also, my husband and I went to Williamsburg for our honeymoon, part of our honeymoon, because our honeymoon was, we got married in Alabama and moved to New Jersey And so our honeymoon was kind of traveling the East Coast, and we went to Williamsburg and spent most of our time there. But my mother-in-law stitched this. It is a bell pull. And she did this for me back when we were engaged, and it was a wedding gift. And you can see how tiny this is. She said I ruined her eyes. So I think this was the last thing that she had cross-stitched. These are some of the homes that are in Williamsburg. But anyway, she did a beautiful job of that. I knew she was making something for me, but I didn't know what it was because I was stitching and she was stitching. So we have had that hanging in our home since we've been married. So this one is a little bit newer. I did this one in 2015. This one is a Lizzie Kate, and it's one of the double flips. And you can see, I have loved this one. I just was so drawn to Lizzie Kate with all of the colors and the meaning and the messages behind all of her designs. And I had, as I mentioned, had taken a break from cross stitch. And so from listening to Kimberly's FlossTube, Fat Quarter Shop cross stitch, and I learned about stitching with housewives. So Priscilla and Chelsea. And then in listening to them, and I binge watched them. And so one of their episodes, they were talking about how Lizzie Kate had retired. And I was like, what? I panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, I just have always loved her things. Because I know so many of you do things like long dog samplers and all these things that I was not even aware of. I just, coming into FlossTube has really opened my eyes to so many different things. Like the last one that I showed you is done on 28 count even weave, but I didn't even really know even weave from Ada. I mean, I knew the difference in those, and I knew that I preferred the even weave, but I was not really I wasn't aware of all the different types of linen and things. So I have really been getting an education here over the last 6 months. So I have got a stack of some other previous finishes that are not fully finished. So let me show you some of those. And these are not things that I've just recently completed, but I have completed these within the last couple of years. So this is the Lizzie Kate Buzzy String. Let me open that up. You can see the little buzzy string. This one I haven't fully finished yet for the very reason that the dragonfly wings and then the M and N are done. I mean, they're very difficult for you to see. They're not much better with me looking at them in person. So I think I'm going to pull that out or frog it. I'm learning all the technology, all the terminology as well. But just so that I'm able to see that a little bit better. Just a couple of weeks ago, I did this little Lizzie Kate. I thought that was really cute for Christmas time. Oh, and because August is my birthday. My birthday was just this past Tuesday. And so I am drawn to things all about August. And so I did the little Country Cottage Needlework August house. And this one, I pulled the little tag. This is done on 28 count lamb's wool Joblin. And then I have done the little gingham greetings. And it's so funny as I'm showing you these. Typically when I watch FlossTube, I project it up on the TV. I'm watching YouTube on the television. So I feel like I'm a stalker because I've watched so many of you. If you're a FlossTuber, I've watched so many, and I'll give a shout out here in a few minutes to the ones that I'm typically drawn to. But I don't always comment, so you may not realize that I'm there watching because I'm watching on the TV, and I just haven't quite figured out. I don't think that there's a way for me to comment from the television, but if there is, somebody shout it out, let me know. So I've also done Jolly Claws. And y'all excuse my nails. I haven't had a manicure in like, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months. So here's little Jolly Claws. And this was my first time working on black. And the Jolly Claws and Gingham Greeting are done on Ada. So my eyesight is not what it used to be. And even with the light and magnifiers and everything, I was kind of struggling a little bit, but I made it through. Now these I love, what I'm about to show you. I'm trying to see where my newer ones are. Well, I'll find it in a moment. Oh, here they are. These are part of I meant to bring the patterns down, but these are part of the Plum Street Sampler series. And so this is the cows. And these I did 2018, so 2 years ago. So this is the cows. And the pigs. And the goats. And the sheep. And I love this little bee up here. So since I did these, and at the time that I got those, we had a local needlework shop in Duluth, Georgia, which is 20 minutes from me. I live in Johns Creek, which is north of Atlanta. I guess I probably should have said that at the beginning. I'm a Georgia stitcher, and the other thing I'll mention, I was watching Pam and Steph the other night on their live feed on Instagram. I watched both hours, and I've not only in that case, but I've seen a couple of other floss tubers who are talking about, gosh, there's so many stitchers in Georgia. Really? Where are they? I would love to know. If you're a Georgia stitcher, please comment below. And if you found my channel and you're listening to this, I would love to know. Shout out in the comments where you're stitching from or where you're viewing this from. Because I would think that if we have so many Georgia stitchers that we would have some local, needlework shops. We have quilt shops, and I think there's a needlepoint shop or two down in Sandy Springs, which is a little bit south of me. Which, I don't mind driving, but we have plenty of Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and Joann's. In fact, I think I have two or three of each of those within 20 minutes of me. So that I am not complaining about that. I just wish that we had local needlework shops, someplace that we could gather and stitch, of course, in a non-quarantine type time frame. The thing I was going to point out on these Plum Streets that I was showing, I've now also picked up, sorry about the glare, this is the Gobble Gob, which is the turkeys. This one they had before, but I couldn't get my hands on it, hen peck. And I also picked up Rack Stack, which are the deer, because we have a lot of deer in our backyard, and so this one I just loved. Unfortunately, though, this fabric, which I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. I think I may have bought this fabric. No, as I'm actually looking at this and saying it. But I think that this came from like Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But now, this is what I can find. It looks similar, but this is significantly lighter. And maybe if I finish them and don't, put them together, either hang or I don't know whether I'll put these in a dough bowl. I was really thinking that I was going to finish these and actually hang them on the wall in a grouping, but who knows? If I can't get them all to look alike, then that probably will not happen. This is another Lizzie Kate, Welcome All Seasons. And this one I did in 2016. The other thing I've heard is that a lot of people do not sign or date their stitching. And I would love to know, what you're thinking, why or why not you choose to do that. I put my initials and date on everything, and now I'm so happy that I did. When I was young, my mom, because I do a lot of photography, my mother would always say, make sure you put the name of who it is and, and the date on the back of the picture. And this was back when you had to actually print, send off and print film, not digital. And I was like, I know who this is. I'm not going to forget. Well, yeah, you do. Here's another Lizzie Kate, and I love this. As you can hear, of course, as I show this, my dogs appropriately begin barking. But this is one of my favorites. I just love that. And there's a cat version as well. So, okay, that is all of the previous finishes. And I have other strings that I can do at some point in time. But let me run through some of the things that I have started working on. So these are my works in progress, my whips. For World Cross Stitch Day on Friday, I began the Silver Creek Sampler. I've been watching Priscilla do this, and actually I'd seen it before she began, and I was like, I just love that. I tend to stitch things seasonally, although there's specific seasons that I stitch for, which is predominantly Christmas. Don't really have a whole lot for a lot of the other seasons, especially the summer seasons. So anyway, this is where I've gotten. And this one, I have frogged this 4 times, trying to find a color that I would just really like from the stitching. I had changed all of the colors. So up here, this is Steamed Broccoli, Classic Colorworks. This is Black Coffee, I believe. And this is Old Blue Jeans. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the Old Blue Jeans. I tried every color of white and just was not finding anything that I was comfortable with. I had tried chalk from, I think that's a Weeks color, and various other things. Okay, and for my birthday, which was last Tuesday, I've discovered Teresa Kogut, and I just love her angels. I love a lot of her things, but specifically her angels. This one's called In Command. And I thought, I am going to get that started. So I am doing this one on 32 count. It's Mystic Belfast linen, which is the called for fabric. And yes, this is what I've gotten done so far. As I believe I had purged so much of my old cross stitch stuff. I have every DMC color that and I have wound them all on spools and they're in boxes. And I had every color known to DMC up to a point. And I know that every year they come out with new colors and things. But I held on to a few patterns like my Gloria and Pat things for Precious Moments, but got rid of predominantly every other cross stitch stuff because in my mind I was like, I'm never going to cross stitch again. Well, never say never, because here I am. Well, one of the things that I discovered when I came back to cross stitch and was watching FlossTube, other than Lizzie Kate retiring, was I was hearing about Prairie Schooler and how you can still get some of their things, but like they have stopped production. And then I don't know who, I can't recall if it's 123 Stitch or someone else, but there are some that are in being reproduced. Well, as it turns out, I had held on to 4 original Prairie Schoolers. So this first one is from 1987. That's the year that my oldest son was born. This one is 1985. Whoop. And then I have 2 others, which I believe are 84 and 86. So I think I have 84, 85, 86, and 87 on these. But the thing that I think is so funny about these is this. I paid 50 cents a piece for these. And these are on the original cardstock. I happened to, when I found out that Prairie Schooler was, some were being reproduced, I started looking to see, well, what are the originals going for? Because if I paid 50 cents, let me adjust this. If I paid 50 cents, I just wondered what they were worth. And I found these are like $16, $22, $25 on eBay. So anyway, interesting. But here is what I've started on the 1987 Santa. So this is what I've gotten done so far. And most of the time, the way they were showing, Prairie Schooler typically talks about things being done on Ada. I think they're saying 18 count. But this is just natural, I think natural Belfast linen. And I think it's 28, it could be 32. I'm not sure. I should have written that down. I love this. Waxing Moon Designs, Search the Sky. And here's what I've gotten done so far. I'm thinking I'm going to come back and put a little red on the tip of his nose for Rudolph. And my next one is Mistletoe Lane. This is a sew along or stitch along from Fat Quarter Shop. And kind of like Brendan the Serial Starter, I am great at getting started on stitch alongs, but I have a hard time keeping up. This one was a 5-part series. You got the header, then I think the garland and the stocking. The house was another week. The little packages was another, finishing up with the Christmas tree. And I'll show you where I am. I have not gotten a significant amount done, and part of that is because I get stuck. I was just perfectly happy moving right along with doing it as it had been intended. But then I saw on Instagram a lot of people making gray houses or white houses or blue houses or brown gingerbread houses. And then I was like, do I really want a pink house? Probably not. But what color do I want? So then I'm struggling to figure that out. So while I'm figuring that out, all these other projects were calling my name, and so I got started with them. So another one that I started, and I was like, man, it didn't look that hard. And it's not that it's hard, but honestly, it gets a little tedious. this. This is So She Did, and this again is by the Fat Quarter Shop. And it's super cute. It's got little buttons that are from I'm going to forget the name of the button company, but you can get them through Fat Quarter Shop. I think they're Lori Holt's buttons, but they're made by, it probably says on here. Cute little button bag. I'm not going to find it really quick. But anyway, I haven't gotten very far. And again, I'm doing the aqua teal colored sewing machine. But you can look online and see that people have been super creative in the colors that they have chosen for that. Then I have this one, Vintage Christmas Sampler, which I think is super cute. And you would think that this would not take long to stitch. And it probably wouldn't if I had chosen a better fabric. I just grabbed something out of my stash and I thought, oh, I'll just stitch on this. And you can see I've done the Santa and I've done part of the mitten. I've done the mitten, but not all of the thing. But this is horrible fabric. This is a linen, and I don't even know where it came from. It may not have even been intended for a cross stitch. It is so see-through, has just, oh, it's horrible. It's really difficult to hang on to. I have Q-snaps. And that used to be my preferred way of stitching, but I've gotten so used to stitching in hand. Typically, I think I will only be using my Q-snaps if I'm having to do back stitching or specialty stitching or something where, you know, I don't know. But I think that that's pretty much the only time I'm going to be using the Q-snaps, predominantly for back stitching. So I've got a lot of haul. And so much more than what I'm even going to show you today. So I'm going to run through these really quickly because I think a lot of these you probably have already seen. But these are not kitted and ready to get started. They're just in my inventory. And, you know, I would have to really get started and stitch fast because some of these are coming up for early fall or even the fall time frame. And I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on myself. I would love to have these done, but I'm not a super fast stitcher. I am very analytical minded, and this is the creative side of my brain when I'm doing photography and quilting and stitching, but still I'm kind of a rule follower. So working outside of the lines and stuff, you know, I don't know, it just takes me a while. Anyway. Teresa Kogut. I just love this. Hope for the World with the Nativity and Santa. I just love this. And I'll probably say that a million different times. This is Lori Holt, one of her little sets. They're starting, Fat Quarter Shop is starting a Stitch Card Club. I think it's going to begin in October, if I'm not mistaken. So you can get these, just have these like automatically sent to you, and I think maybe quarterly. Anyway, I'm not going to join the club because I'm a little picky about the ones that I like. And I mean, although they're all adorable, I just don't know that I would stitch all of them. I'm also part of the Prim Stitch series. So this is the first month. This one came out in July. And now this one has come out in August. And I've not begun either one of them. Before they even sent this series out, they sent out the border. And you can do this border as individual pieces or the whole set. There's like 12 of these in the series. You can do it as one large piece, or you can do it as little individuals. And I debated about, you know, do I want to do it as individual or the large piece? I'm not one to change my decor out monthly. So more than likely, I mean, my plan is that I'm going to do that as one large piece because I'll probably just keep it out all the time. Okay. quickly. I have Calvin and Clyde. This is Stitching with the Housewives. I have Trick or Treat, and I love this one. I'm not a cat person, but I got this one anyway because I love the trucks predominantly, but I like all these little trick-or-treater things. This is part of that trucking along. And then again, I got this one because it's August and we're halfway through the month, more than halfway through the month. I haven't even started it, so maybe for next year. Then I have Birds of a Feather, Holiday Seasons. I was waiting to show that another time. Then I have a number of different hands-on designs. So these are part of the chalk series, Holly Jolly. This is the Halloween. What are they calling this one? Winter Wonderland. And this one is Autumn Acres. Again, these are all done on black. I've seen them done on gray, lots of other options. So I don't know that I will do it on black because I had such a hard time with the little small ones. But this is a Jeanette Douglas design called Vintage Flowers. I can't recall where I saw this, but I just loved it. Now, this next one, if y'all don't know who Niecie Lynn is, you have got to find, I will link her below. I want to give her a shout out. I swear, she's the funniest person on the face of the planet. Because I watch her on my TV, I wake my husband up and rewind her to let him hear some of the craziness things that she says. But she just, I say just, for me it was the just. She may have finished this months ago, but for me, I just watched it. But she did the 'Tis the Season, and she changed it where instead of the French wording and instead of saying 'tis the season to be jolly, she said remember me, because the cardinals, have a semblance of, people believe that it's a deceased relative or someone coming back and checking on us. And we just love birds, and we being my husband and I, we have bird feeders, and we have hummingbirds as well as regular bird feeder, and we have so many cardinals coming to see us every day. And it's so funny because right now we have these little plump, they don't look like baby cardinals, but I guess they're teenage cardinals. They're trying to get their wings. They fly to the bird feeder with the mom or dad cardinal. Sometimes they're here with dad, sometimes he's here with mom. And the baby cardinal will sit and flutter and flap its wings and and he's like this far from the feeder, like just a few inches. And mom or dad will go and get the food, bring it over to the deck railing, and put it in his mouth. I'm like, if he could fly to the feeder, why can't he just go those extra couple of inches in order to, eat for himself? But anyway. Okay, I know this video is getting super long and I may have to edit it down to cut some of this stuff out. But I have dyed some Monaco Rit dye, and I'll just show you that real quickly. And I did I dyed it, and then I did kind of what I've seen on YouTube, and I did it for some tie-dyed things where instead of baking it like Priscilla and Chelsea do, I put it in like a Walmart, Target, grocery plastic bag with a couple of paper towels in the bottom, and microwave it for about 2 minutes. Just something to get it really steaming hot, and it steams inside of that bag. So you tie up the bag and it gets really steamy and very, very hot inside, and it sets the color. So this is Monaco dyed with dark brown. I was really pleased with how this turned out. This is wine, which I love this. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do with it, but maybe Easter. And these were not coffee tea dyed. These are just straight out RIT dye. This one, I think I'm going to do what Chelsea and Priscilla do, and I'm going to dunk this one in coffee tea dye. This was aquamarine. It is such a vibrant blue, and blue is my favorite color. But I just don't see this being in my home in this bright intensity. So stay tuned for that. And then this one is charcoal gray. And I also added a little bit of black. This is my note down here so I know what I did. But I added, after I had already dunked it, and it was so light, it looked like pearl gray. I didn't think I had enough color, and I didn't realize how intense it was going to get when I microwaved it. But I had added a little black to the bath, the dye bath, and I think you'll be able to see a little bit of that in the color. But I like the way it turned out. I don't know what I'll do with it, but anyway. All right, and I have not gotten into project bags. I've just been using these little inexpensive ones. You can get them about, I don't know, 12 or 15 for about $12 to $15, maybe $10 on Amazon. I love the project bags, but it's like, and I know I could probably make some or order some, but I just haven't done that. And I really don't know if I'm going to make them because it takes me away from my stitching time. And one other quick thing, the very first quilt that I ever made, my husband and I were working, I worked during the day and he was working an overnight shift after we first got married. And so I took a quilting class and learned how to hand piece, hand applique, and hand quilt. And so that's what this is. Now, these are very country colors. This is very much early 80s. This was done in about 1982. But I used to have it hanging down here in our basement. I'm filming out of our basement. And, you know, I don't know that I would ever tackle that project again, but I was young and I wanted to learn all the techniques and things. But, of course, taste change, and so that's not anything that I would be, you know, displaying in the regular part of my home, I don't think, but who says, you know, who knows? Never say never. Okay, well, let me give a shout out real quick to, so far, my favorite FlossTube channels. So I've already mentioned Fat Quarter Shop FlossTube with Kimberly and Lily. Love Lily's, you know, keeping Kimberly on track and answer, you know, asking all the questions. Then, of course, Real Housewives of Cross Stitch, Priscilla and Chelsea. And who could forget? Just Keep Stitching with Pam and Stephanie. Love them. They're hysterical. And I mentioned Niecie Lynn. She's based out of Texas. She is hysterical. I think we could be best friends. I feel like she is my best friend. She just doesn't know it yet. So, you know, Niecie, if you watch this, you know, give me a shout out. I'd love to talk. Teresa Kogut, I showed you some of her patterns, but if you're not familiar with her, she is an artist. She's not a cross stitcher, but she designs cross stitch patterns as well as punch needles. She also does a Tuesday night paint session. I think she signs people up for those on, I believe it's a quarterly basis, but just stunning work. She does angels and the Santa that I showed and bears and some prim types of things, but just beautiful, beautiful work. And she is so funny to listen to as well. Another one that I absolutely love, Snug Harbor's Stitching. If you've not seen Deb and Keph, Keph just had little baby Link, and he was born prematurely. He's still in the hospital to the best of my knowledge, but he'll probably be there for a little bit because he was just a tiny little guy. But They are so funny. Java Girl Stitches, she does great finishing, and I just really enjoy watching her. SamBrie Stitches, she is actually how I got introduced to Niecie Lynn. So SamBrie Stitches, Becca, she does a lot of FlossTuber interviews. She's also a cross stitcher herself. She's up in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. She's an Ada stitcher, so if you're an Ada stitcher, you may want to take a peek at her channel and follow her. But she's doing this great thing where she's interviewing all these different floss tubers. She has done Niecie Lynn. She's done a lot of different people. And it's a great introduction to all of these different, to the floss tube community. And then give a shout out to the FLOSSTUBERS based in Georgia that I'm familiar with. So we've got George Girl Stitching, Megan. She is from Georgia, but not currently in Georgia. She's in med school at Auburn University, and I'm not going to hold that against her because we are huge Bama fans in this house, so roll tide. But she was living in Ohio for a period of time, and then just this summer relocated over to Auburn. And she's from, I think, the Marietta area here in Atlanta. And then Georgia Stitcher, so she's a new floss tuber. I think I just saw that she's posted her 4th floss tube. So Cindy is an attorney here in Georgia, and she has Emily and Cameron, her 2 little girls, who are floss tubing with her. And I think she's based out of Peachtree City, Georgia, which is south of Atlanta, on the way to Auburn. And then I'm going to call her a Georgia floss tuber, even though she's living in Alabama as well. And that's Long Dog Stitcher, Jenny. She says she's originally from Macon, and her husband, I think, is from Athens, Georgia, but they now live in Madison, Alabama, and that's just outside of Huntsville. And she is as her name indicates, a long dog stitcher. She does do some holiday ornaments that she has gotten herself into making, a series of 12 days of Christmas for nieces and nephews that get born. And now apparently they're in a very productive period where she is having to make an insane number of these 12-day of Christmas ornaments. So it's really fun to watch her as well. So check her out. She's a younger stitcher, and Georgia Girl Stitcher is a really young stitcher as well. And a couple of Etsy shops where I have found to get haul, and that's Needle Case Goodies, Hollis Hands Create, Homespun Samplar, The Cottage Needle, and Dot Goose with her project bags. Like I said, I have not made a purchase of project bags, but she has some beautiful things that I've seen on other people's channels. So that's a lot of information, and I have probably gone way over, but I'd love to hear what you would like to see. What would you like to know? Drop some comments in there for me. And as I indicated, my channel is called The Difference Maker. And right now, I think we all have an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. During quarantine, there's so many people that, when you think about, being trapped at home with your children, well, think about those that may be, like, my husband and I are empty nesters. It's just us here. Quick funny story. Our younger son and daughter-in-law were living with us for about a year while they just relocated here from Pennsylvania. And we're trying to figure out where they wanted to live in Atlanta to be closer to their jobs, because living in Johns Creek to get to their work was over an hour commute, sometimes 2-hour commute, depending upon traffic conditions. And so they were in the process of moving out on March 13th to be closer to their jobs. And if that date rings a bell, that's when the pandemic and the shutdown and the quarantine began here. So they have been quarantined in their apartment and have not yet had to report in or, shorten their commute. The commutes just all stopped during that time. But what I'd say is think about our seniors. our, senior adults, not just seniors in high school. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about our seniors. They, so many of them, if they're living by themselves or if they're in assisted living or whatever, they have been separated from their families in many cases. And also, even our single people, being a lot of their interaction with people has been by being able to go to work or go to the bars or go different places, and being just, forced to quarantine at home alone, is not great for a lot of those people. So, then you also have, kids who, a lot of their nutrition may be from just being in school, or you have people that are dealing with depression and being trapped at home. And so there's just so many things that people are dealing with. And so I would say, if you would just take a minute this week to reach out to somebody, make a phone call, drop them an email, check up on somebody. You don't know what a difference you could make in somebody's life. And so, and the other thing, just be kind. I think that doesn't cost anybody anything. Let's just all be kind. Remember, everybody is dealing with something. And so with that, I'd say, thank you so much. If you're still here and still listening, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to do this again. I'm not exactly sure of the cadence yet, whether it be weekly or every other week. I'm thinking maybe 2 weeks, but we'll just see. But thank you so much for your time. Thanks for listening. And please just go out and make a difference in somebody's life. Thanks, guys. Bye.